Alright, hey folks, I just wanted to create a quick video that'll help guide you through our introduction to Romeo and Juliet while we talk about characters and talk about some basics of the play. So, uh, you hopefully should have something to write with, otherwise you'll have to open up a Google Doc or something, but if we come across any important vocabulary, I'll let you know. Be sure to write it down. So here we go. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how a play is organized, how it's a little bit different than a novel or a book. We're going to describe the relationships of characters in the play, and then there will be a character quiz. It's not really a quiz. It will go in the grade book, but anyway, um, on Google Classroom. All right, so first things first. Romeo and Juliet is broken up into 5 acts. And think of an act as like, I guess, kind of like a chapter or a big part of the play. So an act is like a main division in the play, whereas a scene, so within those acts, you will have scenes. So you have an act, which is kind of the big part, and then a scene. And a scene is part of an act. Each scene usually takes place in one setting. And most acts of this play there are about five scenes. So Shakespeare's tragic plays usually follow a 5-part sequence, and this play is called a tragedy because it doesn't work out in the end. Um, Characters don't always have to die in a tragedy, but you know, this play does have quite a few characters who do die. So usually the play kind of follows this pattern, right? Act 1 is the exposition where we get to learn the characters and their motivations. Act 2 is the rising action or the complications. Act 3 is a crisis or a turning point. 4 is falling action. 5 is usually the resolution or the ending. So now that we're going to look at some of the characters now, and there are quite a few. So one way to remember the characters is to remember who is in each of the fighting families and which characters are neutral. So as you read, ask yourself, what has each character done to complicate situations? So we often talk about how this play is a war between 2 families, but I would argue that it's actually a war between 3, and that will make more sense soon. So, of course, the first ones that we have are Romeo and Juliet. Romeo is a Montague, Juliet is a Capulet. So we've got Lord Montague and Lord Capulet. And those 2 families are feuding. They hate each other. We don't really know why. We just know that they do. No one knows why. They've been fighting for so long that they can't even remember what started it in the first place. Now, um, Romeo has several cousins. Now, whether they're actually like blood cousins or whether they're just really good friends who call each other cousin is never really explained. But we've got Abram, Balthazar, and Benvolio. Benvolio is good guy Benvolio. Like he's just a good dude. And then Juliet, same situation. Tybalt is actually her blood cousin. Like they share uh, on her mother's side, I believe, if I remember correctly. So Tybalt is Juliet's cousin by blood, and then we have some others, Samson and Gregory. Samson, Gregory, Abram, and Balthazar all play very minor roles in the play. They're not super important, but they're on here anyway. Now, we have Mercutio as well. Now, Mercutio is Romeo's best friend, but he is neither a Capulet nor a Montague. Mercutio is actually related to the prince. Similarly, we have Juliet's nurse, who again is not related to her, but she took care of her. She raised Juliet. She is not a Capulet, but she lives with the Capulets and is paid by the Capulets. And the nurse has a servant named Peter. Now we have also Friar Lawrence. Now Friar Lawrence is neutral in this whole thing. He's the religious leader essentially for both families. So the families quit fighting on Sunday. They go to church. They listen to Friar Lawrence, and he's kind of like the one trying to keep the peace between the two families. And then we also have Friar John, who is a friend of his. Paris is trying to marry Juliet, and he is also related to the prince. So Paris, Mercutio, and the prince are all related, and those are our third family. So we have the Montagues, which is Romeo, Capulets, which is Juliet, and then we have the prince's family, which is Paris, Mercutio, and the prince. And there we have it. Last but not least, the prince. We're gonna We're going to skip this for now. We'll do the character quiz at the end of the presentation, so just sit tight. All right, so you're going to want to write these names down. So pause the video if I'm going too fast, but I kind of have to keep the video within 15 minutes, so I kind of have to go quick here. So the first person we're going to look at is Lord Capulet. This is Juliet's father, and he thinks he knows what's best for Juliet, but this kind of makes him overly protective. Another thing about Lord Capulet is he loves to party. Um, I think it's every year, he throws this huge party for Verona, for all of Verona and his family, uh, minus the Montagues. The Montagues aren't invited, obviously. And he holds an ancient grudge to the Montagues. Again, no one remembers why this thing started. It just is. We have Lady Capulet. Um, Lady Capulet is Juliet's mother, but isn't super involved in Juliet's life. She too is overprotective, but she also wants Juliet to marry someone with money and status. Lady Capulet is usually portrayed as significantly younger than Lord Capulet and kind of vain and self-centered and very concerned with her looks and her status and wants Juliet to be the same way. And now we get to Juliet. So when our play begins, Juliet is about 13 years old. She's almost 14. She innocently falls in love with Romeo. She struggles between religious, personal, and family wishes, and she lies to her parents to be with Romeo and Juliet. Now, of the two, Romeo and Juliet, Juliet is definitely, I think, the smarter of the two, because she's the only one who thinks about pumping the brakes on the relationship and kind of slowing down a little bit. But she's also, pretty young and a bit naive. Now we have the nurse. Uh, the nurse is the one who raised Juliet. She covers for Juliet when she's sneaking around with Romeo, and Shakespeare uses her to show how the lower class is treated poorly. And she's also meant to kind of be the clown of the play. Like if the nurse is in the scene, you know that there's going to be an inappropriate joke and a funny moment. She's loud. She often rambles, speaks nonsense. She's inappropriate, but is also very funny. She's interested in Juliet and her love life. The nurse is, like I said, she's the one who cared for Juliet. She's really more like the mother figure for Juliet. And then we got Tybalt. Uh, Tybalt, I guess you could say Tybalt is kind of the villain of the play. He's Juliet's cousin. He's very loyal to the Capulet family. He hates the Montagues. He's super quick to temper and gets angry easily. And then he's very dangerous because not only does he get angry quickly, but he's an excellent sword fighter, and he's nicknamed the Prince of Cats for several different reasons. Um, Minor characters who appear in the first scene. We got Samson and Gregory. They talk a lot of smack about Montagues, but when confronted, they turn out to be afraid. All right. And we got the Montagues. This is Lord Montague. This is Romeo's father. He's concerned about his son and is protective. They're not as protective as the Capulets, but, you know, when the play begins, Romeo is super depressed, and Lord Montague knows this and is concerned about his son, but Romeo won't talk to him. So, just like the Capulets, they hold an ancient grudge against the Montagues. No one really knows why. This is Lady Montague. She's Romeo's mom. She plays an incredibly limited role in the play. Um, has maybe 5 lines total, and then dies of a broken heart off scene. Like, Shakespeare doesn't even kill her. We don't even see her die. It's just like, oh, she dead because her heart is broken. She died the other night. We don't even see it happen. And then we got Romeo. Romeo is young and naive, but he's also a little bit older than Juliet, 16-ish. Some say 17, some say 18. Uh, when the play begins, he's in love with this girl named Rosaline, but she isn't interested, and now he is super depressed. He falls in love with Juliet, and he hurries the relationship with Juliet despite the hatred of the two families, and despite Juliet thinking, hey, maybe we should slow down. We also have Benvolio. Benvolio is Romeo's close friend and cousin. Again, like I said earlier, whether they're blood related or just close friends is never really clear. And Benvolio is all about keeping the peace, but he will defend the Montagues. And he is a respected swordsman, but he does not want to see bloodshed because of the feud. He's tired of the fighting. We also have the prince. He's Prince of Verona. He wants peace in his city and he lays down the law. When the play begins, he says, if I catch any of you fighting again, I'll just kill you. He's related to Mercutio and is not related to either of the other two families. We've got Paris as well. He is related to the prince. He's a handsome bachelor. He's an appropriate match for Juliet as far as her parents are concerned. He's handsome, he's rich, he's got good status. And when the play begins, he asks Lord Capulet for Juliet's hand in marriage, but is initially turned down because Juliet is too young. Lord Capulet says, nope, my daughter is too young. And then we got Mercutio. This is the prince's relative, Romeo's friend, but not really part of either family. He's kind of the wild personality, witty and funny, intelligent comic relief character. Everybody loves Mercutio. And we have Friar Lawrence. Sorry, I'm going through these really fast, but I've only got a couple more minutes. He's a religious leader, a priest, a pastor. He's a holy man. He also understands science, and he's the trusted adult for both Romeo and Juliet and their family. All right, so that's it for our characters. Please take a look at the Google Classroom quiz, and please take that. If you have any questions, please email me. I will respond. Again, sorry for going so fast, but you should have access to this PowerPoint and this video. So please take the quiz and let me know if you have any questions.